coming into this season. They didn't have a great result last season, but a lot of the pros have been saying that this is a team to keep your eyes on. Tempo Storm, however, again, not a great result last season, but there is potential for this team to grow. So I feel like both of these teams have very similar stories coming out of last season, very similar results, and they're both looking to prove themselves this time around.
Yeah, and that's what makes this matchup in particular so important for both of these teams. Like, this is the proving grounds. This is their opportunity to say, we are not a bottom-tier team. We are a team that can contest with the middle to top of the pack in North America.
Yeah, and let's take a look at the roster for Rogue. As these guys, as we mentioned before, I mean, we saw last week FlashX was touting these guys as one of the favorites for North America. Evil, Hammy, and Pon the Original. Now, all three of these names are kind of well known within the North American scene, and they're going to be looking to make their mark this season.
They definitely are, and Hammy specifically has been stepping it up this season to keep up with the rest of his team with Evil and Pon the Original playing very aggressive, very confident. Hammy's trying to step it up so that he can provide the same sort of win conditions or composition that they need. So Hammy, Pon the Original, Evil, incredibly strong team and incredibly talented players.
Yeah, we'll see whether they can live up to this reputation that they've kind of built themselves over the months, and we'll see whether they can get on into this one. Let's take a look at their opponents, though, for this matchup. It's going to be Tempo Storm, Lost Boy Toff, Gaspy, and Hyde. Now, these guys, they've got somewhat of a reputation themselves. I mean, Lost Boy Toff, for example, absolute veteran of the Vainglory scene.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, when they came into Vainglory8, they took the scene by storm. They finished third and second in their first 3 weeks of Vainglory8 play, and just haven't really been able to match or repeat that since then. You know, they went to London, didn't have a strong performance there. Last season, they were always hovering near the bottom of the table. Just go to LA, didn't have a great performance there either. So this is a team that there's so much potential, and we've seen this potential from them before, but they just haven't been able to really put things back together once again and be this team that can be, you know, the dark horse, the upset makers of the Vainglory8.
We'll see if they can kind of live up to that reputation of proving upsets. Honestly, I don't think either of the teams is inherently a favorite based on standing coming into this one. I think both of them need to prove their reputations. One of the players that's going to be looking to prove themselves in this series is going to be Evil. Now, he is obviously in that captain position. He's going to be going up against Lost Boy Toff, who is famous for his captain plays and famously quoted saying, you know, he wants to prove that captains can carry. Evil kind of is going to have to prove himself going into a player like Toff right here.
Yeah, it's going into a player like Lost Boy Toff, who you know is going to be trying to make aggressive plays as a captain, can be a little bit intimidating because you know that, you know, you almost want to match. You want to like meet or beat your opponent, and if they're the ones that are playing this aggressive style that maybe you aren't quite as known for, then it could force you into making some mistakes that you may not make otherwise.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's start to talk about the draft as we head towards these games. Tempo going up against Rogue. Are there going to be a lot of comfort picks coming into this one, or are they going to be trying to stick to the meta? And if so, what are those picks going to be?
I mean, for Rogue, we can expect a few comfort picks, at least for Pon the Original on the jungle position. His Cruel was incredibly strong week one. His Rhyme, his Black Feather as well. They have quite a few flex picks too between Hammy and Pon the Original. So Rogue got quite a diverse draft strategy going into any match they go into, really. For the exception of Evil being a solid captain player where he always gets his Grace, his Lance, his Finn sometimes. So a lot more on Tempo Storm, in my opinion, to put Rogue off of their strategy and try to get something very strong for themselves so that they can come out strong in this matchup.
Yeah, so a lot of it is going to be like trying to deny picks from their opponents and make sure that you're not only setting up your own strategy, but also denying the strategy from your opponents. So are we expecting to see a lot of aggression? Because I feel like that's been somewhat of a theme of today, has been one team going very aggressive and the other team going quite defensive. Immediately, Rogue banning away the Petal, which in turn forces the Crawl ban from Tempo.
Yeah, a pretty fun little interaction there in the draft. It does leave both Catherine and Grace open. Rogue deciding that they feel the Catherine is stronger than the Grace at the moment. So, well, Lost Boy Toff, you want to be a playmaking captain. Grace is definitely one of the captains that can do so.
Yeah, absolutely. So Catherine and Grace going to be locked in. It's not often that we get to see both of them. Rhyme is going to be a ban once again.
Yeah, so we already see Tempo coming in with a very clear strategy to take Pawn the Original off of his comfort picks by banning Cruel, Ban, and Rhyme. I would expect their first pick on the second rotation to be a character or a hero that Pawn the Original plays so that they can lock him out of even more heroes to play. The Catherine, I'm very excited to see Evil on it. Glaive Band comes through. So far, 2 of the strongest junglers are already taken off.
And
Blackfeather is open.
A key thing is that 4 junglers have been banned away here. So the jungle pools are really going to be tested coming on into this game.
Yeah, and assuming that Tempo Storm are going to continue to try and target upon the original, maybe something like Blackfeather is their pick here to take him off the board. And again, this is now 5 junglers, or at least potential junglers, that have been taken away from Rogue. And so Pawn's going to have his hero pool stretched here. Going to have to showcase that he does have a deeper hero pool than what we have seen thus far.
Absolutely. And now Rogue with the double pick available to them, but Baptiste is still on the table. They've already got that
Baptiste
Catherine.
and Idris.
So there is a potential for that serious powerhouse composition.
While Baptiste is still open and combines really well with Catherine, it's not a hero that you usually put Pawn the Original on, not traditionally at least. So if he goes for it, it's going to be a little bit surprising to me. It still would be extremely strong with the composition, but I expect him to go for something a little bit different. As far as his hero pool, there aren't too many things left other than the Grumcha that we saw last weekend. Didn't work too well, so they might still go for it again.
We'll see which direction they want to go in. Running out of bonus time at this point, so they've got to make that snap decision fairly shortly. And then over towards the lane, there's still a huge amount of picks available. Scarf will be the lock-in coming through for them, but that obviously can go to the lane or it can go to the jungle as well, so we'll see where they choose.
Yeah, it's definitely up in the air and something that they have to basically pick of, do they think that the Blackfeather is going to be in the lane or the jungle, and then try and match it up based on that, or you pick someone else that can flex. That is not someone who's likely to flex. That's going to be a Grump Draw almost certainly going into the jungle for Pawn the Original, that early aggressive type hero, with the Scarf then as the late game carry to sort of back it up once we get deep. And
here we go, boys.
Reza.
Reza has been locked in. This is the first time we've ever seen it. Very good at diving, very high mobility. For anyone at home that's maybe just not played against Reza yet, obviously this is still a new hero. Do you guys want to explain what Reza does for any viewers at home?
So what I'm expecting is Reza to go into the jungle. He's a very strong mid-game and late-game hero, especially if God of Sins goes for the Storm Guard Aftershock Broken Myth build. It's a high cooldown, high utility build, but also does a lot of damage just because Reza holds a lot of base damage. The only thing is they're picking it against Grumcha, who's extremely strong early game. So if Pawn the Original plays aggressive and shuts down Reza, this can turn out very well for Rogue. On the other hand, Tempo have a very strong late game comp.
All right, we'll see if they can get to that late game. We've got to get on into this game. I know you guys are dying to talk about Reza, but it's time to pass it over to our casters. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know. Tweet about the Reza pick. Let your friends know. Get everyone into the stream. It's time to pass it once again to Sean Austin and Humanist.
Reza? What is happening? I don't know. What teams are playing? Oh, yeah. It's Rogue vs. Tempo Storm. I got too excited here. I didn't expect the Reza to come out. Sean and Stino. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Humanist. I think that's a word of the day for me. Interesting. It's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fascinating to see God of Sins on this Reza pick here for Tempo Storm. Reza, an interesting pickup. He hasn't seen that much play. And it's because he, especially when he first came out in 2.7, he really he needed a buff, you know, and we have gotten a little bit of a buff for him. He does have some interesting stuff in his kit. He's got his Firestarter heroic perk, so he applies that every time he does either his Scorcher or his Nether Form detonator attacks. With his Troublemaker, that detonates the Firestarter perks or Firestarters that are applied. Looks like we're gonna have some aggression here.
I don't know how to play this one, team. I'll do my best. I haven't got to cast any Reza before, but God of Sins gonna have some fun. Of course, God of Sins kind of came in as a sub last week. We're seeing him here again, and maybe this is just kind of a wild card that Tempo Storm are pulling out here, or something that they've practiced. But either way, I think Rogue have a strong composition of their own to face up exactly what Tempo Storm is trying to do. Hammy, of course, we've seen him on the Scarf in the past. He's just an absolute monster. One of the things I'm seeing with this Reza pick here is that if Pawn the Original does get in there and try to stuff up a target or get into the back lines, he could easily just use Nether Form Detonator, go, disappear for a second, reappear somewhere.
Yeah, I would hope he does that. Also, Troublemaker could be one of those abilities, that's his B ability, that he uses to actually either chase down targets or disengage really quickly. Those are one of the things, like kind of like Sonic Zoom, that we could see. Oh, there's a little bit of an engage here.
Little bit of an engage. They're playing some games here.
Little
Pawn
poking.
is gonna move up. He's gonna probably use that Grumpy on the Gaspy. Gaspy, yeah, just moves back just enough. You know, Lost Boy would be able to help him out, but you see Mini Candy even coming out of Rogue here. This is going to buy them an opportunity to rotate, maybe down potentially as 2. Evil thinking about hanging around in the lane, but eventually will go and follow Pawn. Pawn clears that the right Tri-Brush, and that shows him that he can move and take this Elder Tree in for free.
Yeah, this is going to be some good gold experience and regen heading over to upon the original one right there. But, oh, it looks like Hammy's going really low.
Yeah, Hammy, it's all calculated in the end here. Hammy staying alive though. His boots are going to be on cooldown.
So getting back to Reza, his ability Troublemaker is actually a very fun ability to use because it can get you in and out of really sticky situations or into engages as well. Looks like Gaspy is getting a little bit of aggression from Evil here. But with God of Sins, I would hope he can disengage from Grumpjaw's really well. Grumpjaw's jaws really well. And I can hope that he could go ahead and chase down Hammy if Hammy's trying to get away, and he's actually pretty low if he goes low on health.
Oh, they're playing the game's down in the jungle. Lost Boy's here. They're on to Pawn. God of Sins, show me how to play Reza right now. There's your Scorcher. He's going to move back. Look at the repositioning with the Troublemaker. It's actually quite effective, I think, against the Grumpjaw.
Yeah, that's what actually we were talking about. And what's actually cool about Troublemaker 2 is it actually has 2 charges to it, unlike the Sonic Zoom that Vox actually has, where it's just 1 charge and it has to go in. Oh, there's some aggression on the Hammy.
Oh, Benediction. God of Sins. I don't think the Scorcher connected there. Yeah, that probably puts Hammy down very close to death, but he's going to get out of that one.
Yeah, if we did have his Scorcher actually connect on the Hammy, apply some of that Firestarter first, then when the Troublemaker connects, that's where we're going to be able to get some good bonus damage onto Hammy. That's probably one of the win conditions that we're going to see here coming out of Tempo Storm is they've got to get those Firestarter perks applied onto their targets, and then they can burst them down a lot easier that way.
It's going to be hard for them to do, I think, especially if Evil sees them moving forward. Now, God of Sins, oh, gets the Troublemaker off with the Grumpy from Pawn. They're moving forward. God of Sins getting lit up. The goop is down. And first blood for Rogue, as they just completely misread that situation.
They did, and that's one of the things about Reza, is that he's extremely, extremely squishy. I remember we had there were some issues with him being too squishy, and they actually had to do a hotfix update back in 2.7. But still, he's just one of these jungle mages. He's a CP carry, and you can't build him really any other way. He's going to have to go for a lot of sustain in his kit. After getting, well, he's going to have to go for an Eve of Harvest at some point, and that'll allow him to better sustain throughout battle, to be able to keep up the regen on his energy as well.
Well, he's not building into that right now. Looks like he's going to get an Aftershock, maybe something else, but we'll see where he goes with that. I think it makes sense the way you're kind of breaking that one down there. Gaspy taking a lot of damage as Hammy putting in work with these Spitfire Goop combos here. Lost Boy just kind of has to wait for his moment there. Pawn moves, takes the mid away from God of Sins. God of Sins, Scorcher's down, Troublemaker back. He's playing very defensively. Lost Boy did have to use the Benediction to get himself into a good position there, but Tempo Storm on the back foot. Rogue as a team. Pawn has his ultimate available. He's going to move forward. There you go. He's got his ultimate stuffed up. He gets back. He's going to go ahead and spit out Lost Boy there. Lost Boy holds his ground. They're trading damage back for the fountains out from both teams, trying to stay alive through this. And you see Gaspy only level 5. He really couldn't do too much. He just trade his basic attacks.
Yeah, that was an interesting team fight. And that's actually something that's really cool with Pawn the Original's Grumpjaw right now, is that he can actually, when he stuffs up people, not only does he take them out of the fight, but he can reposition them so easily. We saw there that he grabbed them from the jungle, in the actual Tempo Storm's jungle, and moved them over to the Mustache Bush. Really good repositioning, but they just weren't able to capitalize right then.
Not just then. Of course, God of Sin's not incredibly strong right now. He's going to have to continue to itemize, get his levels, but right now, being level 6, let's see if he's going to use this ultimate here. Maybe, I thought he was actually caught. I was going to say maybe he uses it to get out and reposition, but he's doing okay. God of Sins, he has a lot of gold to spend. See what he completes.
He does. I hope, yeah, he grabbed that Aftershock, just like you were talking about, Humanist. And the Aftershock is actually a really good item that works well with Reza's heroic perks. So not only is he going to be able to do bonus damage with the Fire Starter and Troublemaker combination, but because he has Aftershock on him too, he's going to be able to get additional bonus damage on top of that.
Bonus damage is so good. Lost play, moving forward, Scorcher's down, going to Pawn. You see, Goddessins, he applies the Scorcher and then just Troublemaker's back ways. Consistently just being a nuisance, but he's out of charges on that. I almost feel like he's kind of wasting that Troublemaker there.
Yeah, he's using them to get out of the fights, which is what he needs to do because he's so squishy right now. Maybe once he scales up, he gets a little bit more health, gets that Eve of Harvest sustain, he'll be able to dive into combat more. But as of right now, he's going to have to use those defensively. And I feel like Rogue knows this, and that's why they're pressuring him so much.
Well, what's the play? Scorcher's down onto Pawn. Pawn just ripping God of Sins up. Now Gaspy's over the wall. Lost Boy's there. Holy Nova! Why do you do it? That's not what you wanted, Lost Boy! A bad play coming out here. Maybe it was just a bit of a misplay, we could call it. Pawn, the healing flask clutch right at the end. Allowing Gaspy to get out of this one. He just didn't want to chase. Evo will get hit with another on point. Gaspy, of course, kind of predicting that the cat's in the chase there. A nice aggression, and now it's 2-0 for the Way of Rogue.
8 minutes in, 2-0 going for the Way of Rogue. They have one turret taken from Tempo Storm. This is an interesting predicament that they're in. They need to scale up a little bit more. We need to have Gaspy is going to be able to stick to targets. We know that he wants to stick to Scarf. He needs to be able to get him down, burst him down, take him out of the fights. God of Sins, he needs to get a little bit tankier, build that Eve of Harvest, get some more CP damage. We know that Reza can be really bring the pain if he's able to get his full build. So once he's able to do that, we're going to be able to see him come online. But as of right now, him being at level 8, he's up his Troublemaker completely. He's overdriven it. So that's going to help him more with that engage and disengage from combat.
He's definitely been... it does feel like the Sonic Zoom quite a bit. I was going to say, this is Sonic zooming around. No, it's
a fire zoom.
He's making trouble, yes. And God of Sins, we'll see if he can execute on this Reza here shortly enough. Now, Lost Boy kind of uncharacteristically went down very quickly in that last fight, before I think even the Holy Nova quite connected. So he'll probably play this a little bit safer, realizing that so much damage is coming out. Pawn does have this Tyrant's Monocle ready to go with the Tension Bow. He has huge burst damage if he gets on target. Looks like they're chasing. Evil finds the stun onto Gaspy, moves for it. He's going to find the stuff, but a nice Blast Trimmer coming through will be blocked off. Actually, Lost Boy moves in. Now we've got the good Holy Nova positioning. Gaspy wants Hammy, gets the Divine Intervention. Hammy trying to kite back. Hammy dropping low. They've got the Baby Dragon, Sean Ostino. Now it's Rogue on the run. Pawn will go Grumpy over the wall. Evil left for dead, and a double kill comes through for Gaspy, who just completed his breaking point and was able to stack that up just for a little bit. So Reza, part of a winning fight.
Very nicely done with that team fight. We actually saw that once Hammy was in trouble and he was bursted down, there was nothing that Rogue could do about it. If they just take Hammy out of the fight each time. Oh, Godson's going low.
Goddessins very low. Pawn came in there and flexed, and you can see Goddessins just try to stand his ground, but he couldn't handle the damage coming out of this Crumbshaw.
Pawn the original can do a lot of damage, Humanist. He's got that Tension Bow, Tyrant's Monocle online now, and he's getting up there. He's at level 10 right now, so he's scaling up very well. He's once he gets into fights, he's got that Bruiser. Grumshaw's got that Bruiser kit, so he's able to sustain and just fight really well. Looks like they're working on this gold miner here, but once he gets in your face, repositions you could be in a world of hurt from this Grumshaw.
Yeah, world of hurt indeed, especially if they're able to really combo it up. Like, you know, you come out right into Spitfire Goop combos. Maybe you come out right into a stun, come out right into a Blast Trimmer. So yeah, they could definitely light a target up here. Pawn really coming into his own. He's got a little bit of gold in his pocket, but also sitting on a weapon infusion. So if they get into a skirmish, even if he's not really ready for it, he can pop that weapon infusion.
Yeah, especially once he gets up to level 11, that's going to give him even more bonus damage on top of that. We do see that there's actually, it looks like is that an Echo picked up by Evil? So if that is, he's going to be able to do some double Blast Tremors coming out, and that's going to be some good crowd control. The side of Rogue actually has tons of crowd control right now. The repositioning with the Stuffed, the Blast Tremor coming out, the Merciless Pursuit, the Goop even. That's a lot of CC that Tempo is going to have to deal with. And I feel like what's good about Tempo right now is they have this dive comp. They're going to be able to dive in, but two of their members are just a little bit too squishy right now. So Gatsby's going to be needing to get his on points to get that barrier up, and then God of Sins actually needs to get to scale up and get some more damage out of his kit and his items. Then he's going to be able to do some serious hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but you see the way that Tempo's moving. It's like they're waiting for an on point to land where they can follow. It really feels like Tempo's looking ready to engage, and there goes Lost Boy. But Pawn with the immediate stuff on the God of Sins. Gatsby's in deep, trying to find the damage. Blast Tremor will come through. Nice stun comes out the other way. Fine intervention out onto Gatsby. Hammy dropping low, standing in the Spitfire. It's ignited. He has the damage. They've got one. They've got two. Trading Pawn and Hammy able to get one there. Lost Boy goes over the wall with Benediction. And if he can play this really sweetly, he maybe gets himself out. Actually, I don't really think that's going to happen. Evil waiting with the stun here. There's the stun. Pawn moves forward with the Grumpy. Holy Nova comes out, but not really connecting. That's a nice ace for Rogue.
That was a nice ace for Rogue. If that Merciless Pursuit wasn't up, then we could have probably seen Lost Boy top get away. And look at this turret going down, and Gatsby's coming out. But that's one of the great things about Grace, is that she has that high movement speed, especially for such a tanky hero, right? For this captain hero. She's able to get away from a lot, especially with her benedictions. And we're actually going over to a replay now. So we're looking at this last team fight. They were actually really, Tempo was actually hiding back looking for that fight, and they didn't have the on-point land, but once they actually engaged, they were all focusing on Hammy. They just kept going after this weak Scarf. But good thing about Scarf is he's able to throw down these burning groups right underneath himself, and when he does that, anybody who's coming in for melee damage, they're going to get burnt to a crisp.
Yeah, that was really good. I like to see that Hammy, of course, just trusting in his teammates, trusting in his positioning, and just sitting right there, applying that damage. So really nice plays coming out of Rogue, putting them up 5-3, 13.5 minutes in here. They have a nice little net worth lead that they've built up. And if they can keep up this tempo, they should be taking game one here.
If they can keep up this tempo on Tempo Storm. How ironic.
I was just gonna leave that one alone. I didn't know how to bring it home, team. But
I brought it to you, Humanist.
Yeah, you did. Down in the jungle. Did they find Pawn? Well, they found Pawn. Did they catch Pawn? No, they didn't. Pawn the original. He's out of there. Gatsby on point into the brush. He'll get hit with a Spitfire. Stunned up. Pawn's moving in. He's got the Hangry. 303 attack. Oh, look at the damage coming out. Divine Intervention out onto Gatsby. God of Sins. He's zooming around. Troublemaker. Netherform Detonator actually coming out here. Dragon's Breath. Burn, baby. Burn. They're stacked on top of each other. Tempo Storm finding the kill that they wanted. And now Gatsby on the chase. Gatsby's going to boot forward. On point. Off the mark. God of Sins. Show me your Troublemaker. Oh, you're all out. Uh-oh. Evil. He's taking the damage. The on point slowing him down. Moving forward. Evil probably goes down. Benediction as well. They got everything in the kitchen sink coming through. And Ace coming through with Tempo Storm. They'll take the Crystal Sentry as well. Sean Ostino, what a fight.
Yeah, what a fight. Very nice reward for them to take the Crystal Sentry at the end of it. And what we actually saw right there was God of Sins did wait for his Troublemaker to come online. Let's take a look at the replay. And it actually looks like there was a little bit of burning going on with that goop, but once everybody dove in, there was a little nom-nom action there. Once everybody dove in, there was just everybody was just on top of each other. That Holy Nova did a lot of work to stun up the members of Rogue. Once they did that, they were able to just take the fight and snowball it.
Snowball it indeed. Oh, we see Gatsby able to get himself out of here. This guy's kind of trading back and forth. God of Sins a little bit further back than he'd probably like to be, but just using that Troublemaker. I really like this ability. It's one of the greatest mobility abilities we have in the game. It is really clean.
Yeah, and it has 2 charges to it. Also, that's the best thing about it. You know, like we usually have like mobility abilities in people's kits. Like we have the Sonic Zoom, we have the combat roll coming out of Lance, but they don't have 2 charges on them though. Having this Troublemaker reposition God of Sin so easily around the jungle and the lane is what's actually coming online for him late game right now. It's allowing him to chase down targets, and he's got more damage in his kit. He's sitting on top of a Broken Myth right now with that Aftershock. I want to see him pick up some more CP damage. Hopefully he'll be able to get an Eve of Harvest so he can get some more sustain in these fights. And it looks like there's a lot of vision down, and they've spotted out Rogue in that mustache bush. Yeah,
they've been spotted out, and God of Sins with this Broken Myth, if he can get that stacked up a little bit, I think that'd be hugely beneficial for them. But he's got to be careful. I mean, he's in and out oftentimes. We see him so quickly with that Troublemaker. He's going to have to linger around. It's going to put a lot of pressure on Lost Boy, who Lost Boy's been focusing on keeping Gatsby alive through these fights. These guys have to react so incredibly quickly. Tempo moving forward. Rogue sitting in that top brush, waiting for someone to move within range. Pawn the original, he is ready to eat somebody. He's hungry, team. He's not hangry yet, but he's hungry. Hungry for a win. Look at the Scorcher coming out. The on points consistently down the brush. Pawn gets connected with that Scorcher. It's coming out. Not too much damage. Now Lost Boy with Benediction. Holy Nova off the mark. Kind of a swing and a miss. Goop is down. Super slowing up Goddessing. You can see that Goop slow is so strong. You really have to be careful.
Very robust. Yeah, we need to see, if you actually look at God of Sins, he's got 0, 2, and 6 right now for his KDA. He's not killing anybody, but he's getting a lot of work done in the assists range, okay? So he's doing quite a bit of damage, but the people who are finishing them off, executing, is Gaspy on this Black Feather. He's able to dive in there with that Vein of Heart and finish people off. Lost Boy Top has gotten some good kills as well with, you know, the Benedictions, Holy Novas being able to stun people up and do a lot of damage in that AoE.
We'll be looking for the double Divine Interventions, the double Blasphemers, maybe a double Merciless Pursuit. We'll see how it plays out here. Now Gaspy, you know, he's just trying to farm the lane, but eats the Spitfire damage coming out of Hammy, and the damage really starting to ramp up as this Scarf has 4 offensive items. Incredible damage coming out right now, and Hammy's only going to get stronger, and he's just waiting. It looks like they need a little gold to go ahead and get an infusion on him, but once Rogue get that, they should be ready to go.
Yeah, this is a really dangerous game that Tempo Storm is actually playing here, because if they get... well, we already see Hammy with a lot of damage items. He's got 4 tier 3 items already on himself. He is going to be able to burn them down, melt them down into nothingness on the Halcyon Fold here. And it's just a dangerous situation that Tempo is in. I feel like they need to be aggressive, but they kind of want Rogue to get over aggressive, make some mistakes, and once they do that, they can capitalize on it, apply some of that Firestarter, do some of that Netherform Detonator, and just take out Hammy. Once they take out Hammy, it's going to be a lot harder for Pawn the Original to focus any of these carries from the side of Tempo Storm.
There's a lot of weight on Pawn's shoulders at the moment. Hammy throwing Spitfires, the Spitfire machine gun at this point. The Goop's down. Lost Boy's in. He says, go, team, go! Holy Nova does connect here onto Evil. The chase is on. Gaspy wants Hammy, but Hammy kites back. And God of Sins with the Netherform Detonator gets into position here. Nice Blast Timber coming through. Divine Intervention will come out onto Gaspy. Hammy dropping low. Gaspy's got Breaking Point stacks. Looks like Tempo Stormer doing it. God of Sins will go down, but Lost Boy and Gaspy should be able to clean this one up. Pawn, there's nowhere to go. Here, Grumpy. He'll be a little more grumpy after that one. Evil, he's going to wait here in the brush. Gaspy taunting Gaspy. Come on, buddy. No.
That was a really good team fight, Humanist. They did exactly what they needed to do. They dove in with that Benediction. They focused down on Hammy, and even though God of Sins was going so low, the Divine Intervention came out. The patience that it takes for Lost Boy Top to do that, it's unbelievable. And it looks like we're still going to be contesting this Kraken here with Evil, just messing with them with those Merciless Pursuits.
It feels like Evol's winning. I gotta be honest right now. He used that infusion. Now Lost Boy's dropping low. Evil's gonna move in here. Oh, look at that. Wow. Evil making the plays, thwarting the Kraken capture single-handedly. Very nice plays.
If we look at this game so far, it kind of looks like you would see the score and see 6-8. It's in favor of Tempo Storm. Not too big of a difference. But if you look at the net worth, we actually see almost a 4,000 gold lead difference for the side of Rogue. And there's 2 turrets down for Tempo Storm. If Rogue can just continue to play a little bit cleaner, protect Hammy a little bit better. This looks like a protect the carry kind of comp. They're going to be able to come out on top of this game. We're 21 minutes in. This is a very long match, and as you know, when you get Scarf to late game, he's just going to melt right through you if he's protected.
He really will, but this is Reza we're talking about here, Sean. Okay?
This is Reza.
The untapped potential coming out here. God of Sins has figured it out.
He's coming online right now, but I'm actually gonna question this a little bit because he's got a piercing shard. So it looks like he wants to pierce through that Aegis that Hammy's got, but he's gonna have double piercing shard on him. I would have went for more the sustain, and there's the
Lost
engage.
Boy says go. Oh. All right, red light.
Well.
red light. Lost Boy's playing in a red light, green lane with his team here, and kind of trolling us out there. Now Gaspy's gonna move forward, stunned up. On point did connect. Lost Boy's right back in with the benediction. Blast Shimmer connects onto 3. Evo winds up. A second Blast Shimmer coming through. Now the Dragon's Breath. Gaspy's getting melted down. They're gonna lose the Black Feather. Pawn spits out Lost Boy to the edge of the fight as God Ascends falls, and Tempo Storm get picked apart and eaten alive. Rogue should be cleaning up the ace here very shortly. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. They'll be able to take the Kraken off the backside of that one as well. What a clean fight.
They'll be able to take the Kraken Humanist, and very quickly, I might add. Let's go ahead and take a look at the replay. So right here, we see the engage from Lost Boy Toff, and as soon as he did that, we see a reposition from Evil. He gets into that bush, and he actually, I'm waiting for it. He's got Firestarter applied to him, and they're just doing a lot of poking here. It doesn't seem like anybody's going to be doing anything. He gets the stun off on the Black Feather, but once he does, he throws from the bush. He throws the Blast Tremor out, and that's
so
where
good.
it all went wrong. You
That is
cannot.
so good.
It is so good. You cannot go up against Catherine with her Blast Tremor late game. She's so tanky, and there goes the Kraken unleashed on the leash for Rogue.
43 Captain of the Guard stacks for Evil as well. This guy is tanky. Pawn's been doing great on this Grumshaw. And we saw the Cruel, the Rhyme taken away. This is, I mean, Pawn's probably next go-to hero is the Grumshaw. Not a lot of people playing it, but he's really doing great. Let's see what Rogue can do, marching forward, Kraken at full health. You see Tempo Storm looking for an opening, but they've been spotted out with the Flare. Lost Boy moves in with the Benediction. Gaspy, he's on to Pawn. He gets hit with the Spitfire. He's going to rethink this, moving backwards. Evil can get in position here. He has Blast Shimmer plus the Echo ready to go if he decides to pull the trigger. But you have to remember the Kraken's marching forward. Like, Tempo Storm, you're going to... Okay, now is where you may have stayed a little too long. You have to fight. You have to fight now, team. They're going to jump in. Gaspy, he's over onto Hammy. Hammy trying to kite back. He's doing pretty good. With the Scorcher, the huge burst damage coming out. God of Sins plus Reza doing it. A nice Blast Shimmer coming out of the brush there will silence up Tempo Storm. His Pawn tries to get himself out of this one, but Pawn's doing just fine because the Kraken is taking your base. Tempo Storm will be able to get back after taking Hammy out, but my goodness, this is a decision-making at its finest.
I think it was well worth it for Rogue.
They're gonna look to end this.
Oh, they're over. They're
I
in the
think they
base.
can do it. If they can really do it. He's onto the Vein Crystal. They have the damage. Evil's there. He's got the Storm Guard out as well. Crack is still alive, and Rogue have done it. Unbelievable.
Wow, really good decision-making coming out of Rogue. So they lost Hammy in that last team fight, but you know what? It was worth it because they baited out the side of Tempo Storm to stay outside of the base and allow the Kraken to destroy everything. Kudos to Rogue.
Yeah, incredible play out of Rogue. Excited to see them in more games here. It's going to be really good. But to go ahead and break that one down, we'll throw it over to Munchables and our analysts.
Rogue managing to take the advantage in this series in the end, but honestly, that was a close one between these two teams. It really could have gone either way. That final situation, a little bit uncomfortable for Tempo Storm fans at home right now, because I feel like they kind of forgot about the Kraken for a little bit too long. But let's start at the beginning of the game, because honestly, this was neck and neck for a very long time throughout this one.
Yeah, this was not a one-sided affair by any means, and Tempo Storm with this Reza early on, it's very weak. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around about it. But once he got an item or two, started to come online, started to be able to make some plays happen. I think it's one of those situations where everyone just writes the Reza pick off immediately. I don't know if you can really do that anymore. I think there were definitely some signs from this Reza.
Definitely signs of life. I mean, we saw later on in the game when he managed to get onto that scarf, that health bar was gone, like basically instantly. So I think there is a future for this pick.
Yeah, I mean, Reza and Blackfeather are two of the strongest diving and sticking to a single target heroes in the game. If you asked me, what would I pick if I wanted to just focus one single target and stick to it, I would tell you Blackfeather and Reza are by far the strongest heroes for that. But they need to get to the point later on in the game where they can do that, and the early game is the weakest point. Tempo Storm managed to get there, and they were showing it in team fights until they forgot about the Kraken.
All right, let's take a look at some of the fights from that game. We have one at 14 minutes from Tempo Storm, managing to take an ace later on in this game. Obviously, there was some back and forths in the early game, but this was when things started to be opened up.
Yeah, and one of the things we're going to be seeing a lot in these replays is the trend of when Tempo Storm commits all in on a fight, that's when they're able to win them. You see, they're in the thick of things. They're just creating sort of chaos. That's what Reza thrives on, is just making things, being very disruptive, not really allowing a coordinated team fight out of your opponents, because he's just in your face, making you have to try and question, do I stick around, do I back off? But when Tempo Storm got away from that, when they sort of like half went in, didn't fully commit to a fight, that was when they just lost team fights outright.
All right, let's take a look at another one of these fights that happened around the Kraken area, and it was Tempo that managed to take an advantage in this one. And I want you guys to keep an eye on Hammy, because he was really instrumental in all of the fights that Rogue won.
I mean, this is also another story of the team fights where Rogue, when they poked and kited well, they were able to win the team fights, and when they didn't, Reza was able to wreak havoc. This time, Reza and Blackfeather managed to get on top of Scarf, and they end up finishing him off. The Grace heals coming through are so strong to keeping either Reza or Blackfeather, whoever is being focused, alive long enough so that they can take down Scarf. It's such a strong composition to specifically dive that Scarf once they got to the late game stage, once Reza picked up his Aftershock and his Broken Myth. Something to note is he didn't go for the Stone Grab banner, which made his clear a little bit slower than I had anticipated, which could have been the reason why they had a little bit of trouble in the early game more than they should have. But at the end of the day, they were able to reach a point where they could just team fight very well.
All right, well, let's take a look at another replay from later on in this game. It's just beyond the 21-minute mark, where Rogue started to finally take control of things and actually managed to grab themselves a crack.
Yeah, and this is one of those situations where Tempo Storm was just very non-committal on this fight. Like, they did a little bit of poking, they tried to get some engaged off, but then all of a sudden Lost Boy Toph goes in very heavily after this stun. The rest of the team isn't committed to this fight, and then they start backing off after the silence comes through. They're already half dead before they even decide to turn and go into the fight. The Dragon's Breath comes out and just melts through Gatsby because of the stuff being used on Lost Boy Toph. It was just a really well-played fight by Rogue, but that indecisiveness from Tempo Storm that cost them.
And the Echo Silence coming out of Evo.
Yeah.
We mentioned how strong this player is, especially on Catherine, and the fact that Grumcha kept on eating either Blackfeather or Reza to remove him completely from the team fight worked really well, despite the fact that Grumcha is no longer that strong jungler that he used to be, but Pond the original used did great.
Yeah, he certainly did, and that's something that we know Pond for, but this was the final fight of the game, and the fight itself was fine, but the key thing is the Kraken is already pushing this whole time.
Yeah, and just before this fight, it was that indecisiveness again. It was Tempo Storm like trying to decide, do we want to commit? Do we want to go back for the Kraken? What do we do? And by the time they had made that decision, Kraken was already through the first crystal turret. Like they waited way too long before pulling that trigger or just giving up on it and backing off and going to deal with the Kraken.
Yeah, and I mean, the crazy thing is Tempo Storm actually won that fight, but end up losing the game anyway because the Kraken was just too healthy at the end of it.
It was too late at that point. I mean, Rogue still had all of their turrets up, even though Tempo Storm started winning team fights. Tempo Storm got to the point where they could fight back a little bit too late, and that's why Rogue ended up taking the game by pushing with the Kraken.
Yeah, absolutely. And Pond just surviving that final fight, honestly, was a huge factor in them winning that game in the end. We need to move on to game 2, so let's start talking about the draft, because Draft 1 was totally focused around jungle pools, right? We saw Pond going on to Grumpjaw, which is a very fringe pick at this point. It's not something you expect these players to be picking up, and that was because so much was picked and banned in the jungle pools. Is that going to be a theme of this series? Are we expecting that same kind of focus towards the jungle to be coming out once again?
I would expect so. I mean, Pond the Original is a player that we've seen teams try and focus his jungle before. Tempo Storm is a team that were known for having their jungle focused, obviously with Hyde previously, but now with God of Sins, another player that hasn't had his hero pool like proven to be strong enough to survive having all these jungle picks taken away from him. So obviously showing that he's willing to go on to some unconventional picks, but we'll have to see if they can succeed on the unconventional picks now.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about this draft already kicking off. We've got a Cruel ban to start things off. Then Rogue going to ban the Catherine, and Tempo still managed to grab themselves a Grace. So interesting to see the Cruel as the first ban like that.
Tempo Storm definitely don't want to see Pond the Original on that hero. Cruel is
Can't really blame him.
Yeah, I mean, he played it really well in the first week, so they don't want to see him on it again. The Grace pick comes through for Tempo Storm. It worked well last game. It did its job, in my opinion, healing, keeping the carries alive. It just was a little bit too late, as we mentioned. The Baptiste comes through for Rogue, and this is a flex pick. It can go into the jungle, it can go into the roam. I personally would expect him more in the roam, in the captain position, just because I mentioned earlier, Pond the Original is not the most known for his Baptiste play.
Absolutely. That it's going to be a flex to some extent. We'll see if that is something that Pong can actually go into if they need it later on. Now looking towards these other bans, Glaive going to be taken off the board. And now Tempo Storm immediately banning away that rhyme. They do not want Pon on that rhyme.
Yeah, but right now, they can go ahead and grab the Black Feather. This is a pick that's been so heavily contested across both regions over the past week and a half, but they're going to go for the Jewel instead, leaving the Black Feather available. This is going to be very interesting to see how they decide to go with the Jewel. Idris for Tempo Storm, obviously pairing Idris with the Grace just makes a ton of sense, and they take the Petal to, I assume, to try and deal with the Jewel, be sort of a counter there, but once we get to the late game, Jewel can deal with those Munions so incredibly quickly.
Yeah. Jewel is a good pick into Petal, especially, as you said, going into the late game, and this is going to put Tempo Storm on a double CP composition unless they want to run the Idris weapon power. Thing is, Rogue haven't finalized their jungler while they see the Petal pick, so they could go for something that counters it, which there aren't too many picks left for that, to be fair. The only thing that I could see is the Black Feather, which doesn't completely synergize well with their comp because that would be also double weapon power unless he goes CP Black Feather, which is something that Pond the Original has picked up in the past.
Not only that, but I would love to see a Crystal Black Feather come out, because Crystal Black Feather with a Jewel, you pick one target, 2 abilities, they're dead. Like you hit them with an on point and a crit Thunder Strike from a Jewel, that target is not going to be surviving, but they are going to go for the Celeste instead, another one that can still deal with those Munions incredibly efficiently.
Yeah, now I want to talk about Hammy picking up this Jewel right here because, or assuming it goes to Hammy, we saw him play it last week, and honestly, he did a fantastic job on that Jewel. We saw there was one situation where they were 2v3, and he still wins out that situation just getting onto that backline. Maybe Hammy doesn't get it, though, now that the Celeste has been locked in. I'm curious, what do you think about these compositions? Because it feels like Jewel and Celeste, you need to get pretty late into the game before you can have a huge impact.
If the Celeste definitely still feels like a Hammy pick for me. Leading up to this season, Rogue was running multiple compositions where it was all about Hammy on these late-game Hyper Crystal carries, and upon the Jewel kind of seems like
the Celeste is probably going to go for Pod the Original to deal with the Petal and the Jewel in the lane. I actually expect Rogue to win this one if they get to the later game.
All right, we'll see if they can get to that late game. It's time to jump on into this one. Hashtag Vainglory8 on Twitter. Let us know whether you're a Tempo Storm fan or a Rogue fan. It's time to pass it over once again to Sean Austin and Humanist and get this game underway.
That's right, Tempo Storm versus Rogue. Game 2 here. Of course, Rogue have the advantage in this series. We're seeing very fun drafts coming out of both teams here, Sean. Are you preferring one over the other?
I'm kind of mixed a little bit. We see a little bit of early aggression here from Evil. Lockboy Top is going to hit him up a little bit.
Lost Boy hitting him up indeed. Evil, you've already been empowered, brother. Bad Mojo, it's time to get out of here. Okay, Lost Boy and Evil definitely trading back and forth. Just holding their healing flasks so they can really push this to the limit. Potentially bait someone into a bad position where their team can follow up and clean up on. But both teams will converge on the middle area of the map here shortly.
Push it to the limit. The limit. I want to see Pond the Original. I'd like to see him play really well with the Celeste, actually, because usually, like in the previous games, we see him on melee junglers, weapon power, or kind of utility mix, like with the Cruel, right? But having a lot of poke and potential damage coming out of the Celeste, it's going to be a little bit different for me to watch.
I would love to see them just juggle this Elder Treant for like the first 3 minutes of the game. We're 1 minute and a half into this one, and they're still fighting over the Elder Treant. Ladies and gentlemen, this will be Gatsby moving up to the lane as Idris realizes, all right, I'm really not going to contest that. Hammy and Evil will secure up the Elder Treant. Pawn is here. Evil, get out of here! Actually, so they're all getting a little experience on it.
Yeah, we only see them up a couple hundred gold for that exchange, favoring the side of Rogue. But Lost Boy Top, he's not showing any hesitation going into their mustache bush. A little bit of aggression here. I want to talk about Gatsby. He's actually picked up that light armor and Book of Eulogies. Ordain lands on it.
Yeah, Ordained, but he's not really forced out of it, so he's doing just all right. But
Minion
you were saying about these items?
Yeah, I was going to say that he's got, it looks like he worked a Minion Candy too there. They're pushing up under this turret. But yeah, he's got that light armor and Book of Eulogies. That's going to help him with sustaining here early game. Especially, we know Idris he's an assassin type character, so he's a little bit squishy, and he likes to build more of the, he likes to go class cannon. You know, whether he's weapon power or CP, he likes to just build maybe one armor, whether it be shielding or defensive armor. And yeah, it looks like on the original is going for this Elder Treant now. Takes it away.
He's gonna get it one more time now. On level 4, just under 3 minutes in here, he's leveling quite nicely. And this is exactly why we do love the Celeste in the jungle, right? Like getting to that closer and closer to that level 8 power spike, overdriving that game.
Yeah, it's very important because she's going to be able to poke from further range. She's going to be able to have a 9 range on that as opposed to 7. So once she gets that, she's going to be able to,
look at you.
yeah, she's going to be able to throw down a lot of her Helios all over the field, making a bunch of star mines. And those could potentially turn into supernovas and blast away the Munions that God of Sins is going to be having come out of this petal.
Man, I almost forgot there was a pedal. We haven't seen any action really coming out of the pedal thus far, which is, you know, it's interesting. But, you know, we noticed this last week. It's been a while since God of Sins played up at the highest level. And I think he's been playing a bit defensively. That's the way I'm going to characterize it. Of course, you know, the guys that have been playing at the highest level consistently, they're a little more fluid in their movements right now. I'm not saying that he's not up to par with them, but he's definitely playing hesitant. And just a little more rugged around the edges.
Humanist, do you see what I'm seeing? We have a weapon power pedal here. He's working on a 6 Sins right now. We're probably going towards, I don't know, a tension bow? And then we have the CP Idris in lane.
All right, let's make it happen. Let's go.
Let's do it. I actually was playing some ranked games the other night, and we accidentally got a weapon powered pedal per my call when we were going through the draft. And we actually ended up coming on top because the weapon power pedal, she could provide a really good distraction, which actually ended up being fantastic for us. So I'm interested to see how God of Sins is going to use this. And there's a benediction.
Yeah, Lost Boy in with a benediction, but nothing to follow. You see, Gaspy and God of Sins want to move forward to that choke point. It's just a perfect area to just line them up where they can be knocked down. Rogue holding their own as a team here. Nice positioning. Hammy just throwing the thunder strikes. And as Hammy with that Book of Eulogies, he continues to last it. He's going to reach in up in the lane as well, so he's doing just fine. Benediction one more time. Holy Nova off the mark. Lost Boy doing his best to kind of control the situation for his team. God of Sins ordained. He's going to trampoline back. Snaps that, gets stunned up. Lost Boy, really not the target, but he is the front line, and I guess Rogue really respecting him.
Yeah, this Grace is absorbing a lot of the damage. She comes in with those benedictions, and she's able to not only give herself 40% damage reduction, but she's also able to give her allies a one-way shield towards the particular target that she benedicted on.
But yeah, I mean, this shield obviously incredibly important as they get into these fights. With God of Sins on this weapon pedal, I'm really curious to see the build he goes for. It looks like we could have like Sorrowblade into crit breaking point type of build. Would you expect something else maybe?
I would definitely say it looks like it's going toward that, or maybe even damage per second as well. Lost Boy top go low.
I was gonna say they maybe baited Hammy in, but Hammy baited them. God of Sin's gonna get ripped apart by the Solar Storm as well as Rogue turn up and take 2 down.
That's what we need to see coming out of Rogue. They can't be afraid. We have this. They're already sieging this turret here. We have we have Hammy on this hero who has heavy plating. The turret gets destroyed. The first turret down 6 minutes in. And if she just continues to aggress like this, play the aggressive game, which she is meant to do, they're going to be able to take this game from Tempo Storm.
I mean, for the weapon Jewel, it's about getting your overdriven thunder strikes and having some crit to go along with it. Hammy's already having an impact. He's gonna blow this pedal up. He's gonna blow this Idris up. They are so incredibly squishy. I mean, you mentioned it, but you see right now, the thunder strikes tearing through them. Oh, and he really is not hitting his major power spikes yet.
No, he's not. Yeah, he's working. He's still got that Book of Eulogies for that sustain. He's working towards maybe a Tyrant's Monocle here or a Tornado Trigger with the Blazing Salvo and the Critical Strike he's got there. But I'm going to be keeping my eye on Hammy for most of this game because this weapon power jewel is going to be making some plays.
All right, well, it's going to be Goddess Sentence stunned up with the Ordained. The trampoline reposition keeps him safe. Pawn is level 8 now. Hammy actually taking a lot of damage from that shot from there. Now they're on to Pawn. Goddess Sentence forced back. It's going to be the Holy Nova connecting onto Hammy. Here's some shade from Evil, able to force the disengage. Lost Boy drops that Divine Intervention, keeping his team healthy. Now, the thing is, the Tempo Storm are actually still holding their Fountain, while Rogue had to use theirs.
What's actually really cool about the comp coming out of Rogue is that Hammy is just as much of a damage threat in your face as Pawn of the Original is on the Celeste from range. So if you ignore Hammy, you're gonna get bursted down. If you ignore Pawn the Original, you're gonna get blown up with supernovas. We already see Pawn the Original has got a Frostburn, so he's gonna be able to kite some of the members of Tempo Storm a lot better, slow them down, maybe even have a good interaction between those slows and getting Hammy in their face to do some Thunder Strikes.
So is this the perfect composition? Is it beatable, Sean?
I think it is beatable, and the way it's beatable for me is if Hammy turns around. We know he's going to have to be frontlining here. Baptiste can't frontline because he's too squishy, even as a captain. But if Hammy turns around too early, exposes this Jewel's rear side to Gatsby, then he's going to be going down quick.
Gatsby, he's going to use Shimmer Strike because he was taking a lot of damage. Throws out the Chakram, gets back. Hammy taking a lot of damage as well, but Goddess Sense forced out. Solar Storm connects, just clips him on the edge. Pawn gets the healing. Pawn's going to stay alive. Evil. Man, what a god. What a fountain. Gatsby forced back by Hammy and his Thunder Strikes. Lost Boy now on the run. Big red button cuts off his retreat. Lost Boy will buy some time with Benediction and a Holy Nova. But Pawn will be able to take him down. Rogue now going up 4-0, 9 minutes in.
We know that the big red button out of a weapon power Kestrel doesn't do nearly as much damage as CP. Or sorry, a weapon power Jewel doesn't do as much damage. I got out there.
You said Kestrel.
I did. But the thing is, it's a perfect zoning tool because even, especially if you're really low, like Lost Boy Top was in that fight, you don't want to walk through a big red button. That's going to cut you down in a second.
Yeah.
So it only is there for a zoning potential tool, and it perfectly worked well for Rogue in that situation. They zoned Lost Boy Top into that tri-bush, and were able to take him out with ease.
Cut you down. Big red button from Hammy, so threatening. He has the Tornado Trigger. He's got the Sorrow Blade. He's probably building into Tyrant's Monocle next. This Jewel's coming into her own right now. Gatsby throwing a shot down the left mustache brush. Goddess Sins Ordained up. He's just gonna move back. He's really not respecting the fact that they can completely lock him down. He's not built a reflex this entire time. Now look at Pawn raining the supernovas down onto Tempo. Big red button's gonna clear out the mini wave. Lost Boy's in with the Benediction. God of Sins. He wants to apply some damage, but the Fearsome Shade's gonna come out and stun as well. God of Sins gets blown up into some other realm. He's gonna respawn in about 15 seconds here. An opportunity for Rogue probably to take this turret and whatever else they want on the map.
His saucer left the Halcyon hold in due process, and down goes this turret. Really well played with these. Rocket Leap!
That's not a Gatsby. Pawn! Pawn really making a name for himself on the Celeste there. He's gonna go for 2. Well, Hammy gets 1, Pawn gets the other. And Rogue will take the turret now as Goddess Sins, probably the weakest hero out on the fold right now, respawns, and Goddess Sins is gonna move around with his little UFO saucer. Kind of feeling out of place here.
Oh, God!
Uh-oh! You're in a bad place!
What a disaster! The ace coming through. If only he didn't progress. There goes the Crystal Sentry, 2 lives remaining. If only God of Sins did not progress into the jungle with all 3 members of Rogue there, he would have been safe. Just stick near your choke point turret, please, and until the rest of them respawn. Looks like they're working on this gold miner now, Humanist.
Yep, working on the gold miner. This should be theirs. Don't see anything happening there. Lost Boy have that flare out so they know what's going on. 400 gold each. Amy will go ahead and rock leap up into the lane. Stop Gatsby in his tracks. I mean, the Chakram's doing good work onto this Jewel right now. Interesting big red button. Evil. The Ordained out. The stun is there. Gatsby is able to dodge out that core collapse, but he can't dodge out the damage coming from Pawn the Original. Pawn winds up for a Solar Storm. Rips on through. God of Sins taking down Evil. With the Fearsome Shade, Rocket Leap's not on point. Hammy slaps him with a Thunder Strike. This is Rogue's game for the taking.
This is their game for the taking, and I just want to point out that Evil actually got the kill. Right, he got the kill in that team fight. He was able to do some work finally. He's been doing a lot of assisting here, getting out those Fearsome Shades, those Ordains as well. But yeah, finally gets a kill to his name, and they're just stomping through here. 0-10 for the side of Rogue with about 7,000 gold lead, exactly a 7,000 gold lead. 3 turrets remain for Tempo Storm, and I gotta say, Rogue's looking really strong here. They got that Tornado trigger and Sorrow Blade, Tyrant's Monocle out on Hammy, doing a lot of work there. With he's got 7 assists and he's got 2 kills. On the original, ripping through them with the Solar Storm, but he only has 2 main damage items, and then he's got that utility there for the clockwork, so he can just keep spamming these Helios all over the fold. This is really looking like a strong game for Rogue.
Rogue has been looking really good for a few weeks. I mean, I'd say going back to the end of last season, Rogue continuing this kind of momentum, and I'm excited. I think they're one of the best teams in North America right now when they're playing their game properly. Now, Pawn, throughout the Helios, he's realized he's kind of caught out. Pawn, hope I didn't curse you, bud. Hops on his broomstick, glides backwards. It's going to be just fine. Boots will be on cooldown, though. There they go right back in, though. Hitting with that big red button. The Solar Storm connects. Lost Boy will be able to block off the Ordained as they move backwards. This should be a free Crystal Sentry. Honestly, if Tempo Storm try to protect the Crystal Sentry, I would say they'd probably die here.
Oh, Gatsby just barely got out of there on time. And we know what happens when there's one member of the side of Tempo Storm alone with 3 members of Rogue. They just annihilate and delete. Gatsby they've been focusing on him with these Ordained.
Yeah, core collapse on the edge as well. Gatsby getting blown up. Lost Boy can barely hang on the front side of this fight. Shade's gonna come ripping through from downtown Evo. What did he echo, actually? That was his echo there coming through, the echo to Fearsome Shades.
Yeah, he made them disengage, which allowed them just half a second more time to take down that turret. Very well done. If I was to look at anybody on the side of Tempo Storm, I'm going to look at God of Sins. He has 5 deaths, 0 kills, 0 assists. He's getting shut down and targeted by side of Rogue. They know that he's the weak link in this composition, so they're focusing him down. Right after they focus him down, they turn over to Gatsby.
Well, it's like, honestly, the weapon pedal is just kill pedal. Run right at her, blow her up. Whoa! Gatsby, 594 damage, Divine Intervention, a Shimmer Strike, but he's dead. Rest in peace, Gatsby. Nice knowing you. And Lost Boy Toph. This is a dead boy Toph. Couldn't use his Fountain or a Healing Flask or Echo or probably any other item if he had it, because Rogue is here to take your chance at day 2.
Oh, feels good for Rogue if you're them right now. Feels bad, man, for the side of Tempo Storm. They're just getting pummeled here over and over again, and we just saw 2 of their members go down. Kraken is out on the fold now, and I feel like this is going to be an easy take for Hammy to maybe even start up the Kraken on his own. He can solo this. Look at the damage. Look how quickly.
Hammy tears through this Kraken right now. Pawn and Evil are zoning out. Pawn's about to take Gatsby down by himself right there. Helio over the wall. That's a shocker. On the Pawn. Shimmer Strike on the Pawn. What's the play? Gatsby, he's trying to do it. Fearsome Shade, but they've unleashed the Kraken. Hammy's done it. And then Rogue's fighting Tempo Storm in a 2 vs 3. Now, Hammy is here. Thunder Strikes come on through. You're dead. Gotta send 692. A big kill. How about you? A double kill coming through. Rogue Gaming.
Whoa, Hammy coming in on her Crimson Horse, annihilating the members of Tempo Storm.
Oh! My goodness, I love Weapon Jewel. I love you, Hammy. I love Rogue. Wow, what a dominant performance coming up. There is few things as beautiful as those massive Thunderstrike crits in this game.
Oh, such a clean game. Perfect game. Perfect KDA coming out of Rogue. The Kraken didn't even make it to the Vein Crystal. They just stormed in and took Tempo Storm.
Just took Tempo Storm down, crushed them! Oh my goodness, Rogue, phenomenal performance to break this one down. Was it the weapon pedal? What is it, something else? Our analysts and Munchables.
Thank you very much, Humanist. Yeah, fantastic game coming out from Rogue. A perfect game, 15-0 scoreline as they take down the Vein Crystal. Exceptional work. And honestly, after how close the first game was, it's kind of surprising to see Rogue just step it up a couple of gears and just fly away with this one.
It really is very surprising. And it has to go back to that Jewel pick that showed up so big, both in the laning phase and the team fighting phase. They got a lead, 2 kills, the first turret. They got ahead in gold, and they were able to just snowball it and completely shut down Tempo Storm.
And we actually have a replay of that first turret getting taken down as well. So let's take a look at how Rogue started things off here.
I mean, you could see the core collapse landing on Grace, and Jewel just being able to completely destroy her. Afterwards, Petal falls down. They push in the wave, and it's easy first turret at this point because it's only Idris who's there to defend it. Jewel holds a lot of power in that laning phase, especially when she picks her first tier 3 item, which is the Sora Blade. Once that happens, the Thunder Strikes chunk when they hit a target.
And upon the original on the Celeste, I want to talk about too, because for the first 10 minutes of this game, it felt like every single time he threw out that ultimate, Petal died. Like it was unbelievable, his hit rate with that ultimate and taking down God of Sins on this Petal pick, which you have to go back and question the Petal pick a little bit. Obviously, picking it blind like that, not really sure if that's the best idea.
Especially when you're going to go weapon power with it.
I almost feel like that was something that they did because of the draft.
Perhaps, yeah. Let's take a look at another replay that happened at 8 minutes on into this game. We had another double kill coming through for Rogue here.
And you can see here, again, the Jewel doing a lot of damage, but this play here from Evo where he's going to... the Fountain ends up saving the Celeste. The Petal dies to the storm that you mentioned, Tasty Bacon. It always landed on Petal. They were able to clean up. Grace ends up falling down, and then I believe Idris ends up getting caught, and they just snowball the game very slowly, very methodically. They don't make any reckless plays. They just take the game one step at a time.
And that's one of the things that I really want to commend them on, is just how clean this game was. There was no messing around, no overextending or anything. They just very gradually take each objective. Every single time they get a kill, they get objectives, but they don't overextend. They never push it too far. And this was one of the aces that they got later on in the game.
Yeah, and again, this is when the game was already pretty much out of reach, and we're only 10 minutes in. But the fight from Tempo Storm, like you could see, they were trying to make plays happen. That was one of the first Solar Storms that didn't hit Petal. It's because Petal was still in the base because they just were able to push so aggressively. Then God of Sins, just trying to get anything he can, saying, okay, while you're in the lane, I'm going to try and clear out my jungle, get at least a little bit of gold. Nothing doing, just gets pinballed around a little bit here for the ace to come through.
Yeah, I kind of want to commend God of Sins a little bit just for his off-the-wall picks. They didn't work out today, but, first guy to pick Reza here. Weapon power Petal as well. Like, at least he has the confidence to go for it. But this is the final fight that happened this game.
This is the final fight. At this point, it's 12-0. Rogue are far ahead, 10k gold lead. This is a 2v3. Jewel is not even involved, and they're winning the team fight. Once Petal shows up, they just turn around and focus her to the core collapse lands, and they kill her. And what's really worth noting is that Idris, we always talk about how strong he is late game, a carry that can take over the game. But if you shut him down, we always say if you shut him down early on, if you shut him down mid game, he doesn't get to that point. And Jewel, so far, has been proven as a great pick against TP Idris to just not allow him to get to that point.
Yeah, and Hammy at the end there just Gumba stomps the final player. And that was absolutely beautiful game. 15-0 final scoreline. And I mean, fantastic result coming out for Rogue. They can be very happy with this one. We said that this was a matchup of these two teams trying to prove themselves. Rogue, in my book, have absolutely proved themselves there today, especially with a perfect game. We do have one of the members of Rogue standing by. We're going to be able to have a chat with Evil, who is standing by off the back of that victory. So, Evil, talk to me, man. A perfect game to round out that series. You must be over the moon on that one.
Yeah, I'm really excited with, or pleased with how our team performed. We messed up a couple times. We had some misplays in our first game, and we went out with a clean mindset and just executed, and I'm really happy with us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you say you made a couple of mistakes in the first game. You definitely made up for that in the second game. Completely perfect. You've got to be feeling confident going on into day 2 now because, off the back of such a strong victory, that's got to really be a confidence booster for you and your teammates.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a confidence booster. Pretty much what we do is we just, after the win, we get really hyped up for the next match, and then we just go into our draft prepping and then just go on from there.
Now, one of the things I've always been curious about, and we speculate about a lot, but when you have these opportunities of going against a hero that is unconventional, like the Reza or the Weapon Petal, when that comes out, what goes through your guys' communications? Like, how do you prepare for that when it's a pick that you're likely not expecting?
What we usually do, we usually try to just call out what their off-meta pick or the random pick, just try to figure out what its strong points are, and then we work to try to capitalize off of that. And then we also just we just play our game, honestly. Just as long as we play towards our win condition, then we're fine.
One thing that I want to ask you specifically is the matchup Baptiste versus Grace. How do you feel about it? Because there's a very interesting interaction where Grace tries to ult. You can ult and fear her out of that ultimate, canceling her. I also noticed that you went for the Echo as a regular item on Baptiste. How do you feel about the matchup in general?
I think the matchup is it's honestly like 50-50 until you get your Echo. If it's the Baptiste could block the first sphere, which would negate obviously the heal. Like it's fine, like it'll go through. But once you get that second Echo, it actually really I like Baptiste better than Grace in that matchup.
All right, well, we'll see how that matchup's going to continue to pan out across the course of the day. Thank you so much for the interview, and good luck tomorrow with your games.
Thanks.
Awesome. Well, that was Evolve from Rogue. Congratulations on your victory, Rogue, and on a perfect game as well. And for that series, we're going to give the MVP to Hammy. On the first game of the series, he had an exceptional set of plays. And then in this game, honestly, in the second game, you could have given MVP to any of the three players.
Same scoreline for both of the carries, 707 for both of them. Just incredible play. But Hammy, I think, really stepped up and helped to make things happen, especially in game number 1.
Yeah, absolutely.